Hello again, and welcome back to Marketing with Purpose. My name is Monica Pitts, and today I'm solo because I'm going to talk about something that I spend about a third of my week doing, which is writing website copy with the help of AI. Yeah. And you might be here because maybe you're one of my clients and you're going to use this podcast coupled with its accompanying blog post as a tool to learn how to do this for yourself because you're trying to save money and write your own content. And that's awesome. Or maybe someone told you that you can use ChatGPT to write your website content. And they're right. You totally can. It is a great tool. Now, what I don't advise you to do is just jump into AI content generation and expect magic to happen, or all of your content is going to sound like AI wrote it. And you want website content that sounds like you, not a chatbot. So the goal of this episode is to give you a glimpse inside of my brain so you can systematically approach writing the content for your website instead of just throwing prompts at ChatGPT and hoping for the best. Now, right now, authentic website content matters more than ever because human traffic on websites is way down, which means that your chances of actually converting visitors is getting smaller and smaller because people are using the internet differently. They use ChatGPT, they use Perplexity, they're using all kinds of different bots to go out and use AI to comb the web. So they're using it differently. They're not interacting with it the same way that they used to, which is really cool. It's just a new revolution in the internet, right? But it actually makes each human on your website more precious than ever because there's not as many of them out there, right? So we need to make sure that they feel like your business is real when they're there. They need to be able to connect with you, which is really hard to do if you're just slapping generic robotic content onto your site that sounds like everyone else, or worse yet, maybe not even human, right? So writing using AI starts the same way as writing anything else, or really doing anything else for that matter, which is with planning, okay? So I'm going to walk you through the complete workflow that I use from planning all the way through editing and give you a glimpse inside the real intelligence that I use to manage my AI programs. Because as one of my clients put it recently, if you're not using RI with your AI, everything you make is going to suck. And nobody wants that, right? So this episode is meant to be a workshop, quite literally. There is a whole blog post with prompts and outlines and all kinds of stuff. And it's in the show notes. So don't feel like you have to take notes and write down everything I say. It's all right. It's all out there. I wrote it all out for you. In this episode, we're going to cover everything from what exactly AI really needs to write your text so that way it comes out and it sounds like you. I'll share my go-to method for saving time and maintaining authenticity in your tone and content. We will talk about creating page templates. Oh my goodness, this is such a time saver. I swear, this is so important if you really want stuff to come out and seem consistent, right? Now, also, I'll talk you through my editing and refinement process and share with you common AI writing problems that I see on repeat, what I look for to fix, and how I fix them. All right, friends, let's get to this workshop. Let's get to business. You're on a mission and you just need more people to know about it. And whether you're brand new to marketing or a seasoned pro, we are all looking for answers to make marketing decisions with purpose. I'm Monica Pitts, a techie, crafty business owner, mom, and aerial dancer who solves communication challenges through technology. This podcast is all about digging in and going digital. I'll share my marketing know-how and business experience from almost 20 years of misadventures. I'll be your backup dancer so you can stop doubting and get moving towards marketing with purpose. Alrighty, let's start at the top. I don't know how much you use AI. And so first, I feel like I need to talk about how I interact with these wee beasties. I feel like AI is my friend. It's kind of weird. And some people don't feel that way. But then I sometimes bump into people who do feel that way. And it's this amazing, magical unicorn moment between us when we are just geeking out about it. So I don't just use one AI software. Okay. So starting there, I find that there are different tools that are really good at different tasks, just like anything else. You wouldn't put everything in a spreadsheet or everything into a Google Doc, right? Because they each have their purposes, and it's the same thing with design softwares. And so AI tools actually follow that same pattern. Now, there are some tools that outshine others for very specific tasks. And when it comes to writing, I use ChatGPT a lot, especially at the beginning. It's really good for outlining and for general tasks and just for like getting your head on straight, planning. But when it comes to writing, it tends to rewrite everything, which really ticks me off. And it's hard for me to like keep working in a linear fashion when everything keeps getting rewritten. So I don't necessarily use ChatGPT to write everything. I do use it to suggest headlines and titles and that kind of thing, or to write something that's really short. But for longer projects, I use Claude for the actual writing. I use a paid version of Claude, so I pay $20 a month for it. And it remembers context. It has a knowledge base. It will like make very targeted revisions for me. It's really, he's smart. Yeah, it's a him. Claude's a him. And then I use a tool called Perplexity for research because it combs the web very effectively. It provides citations, generalities. It creates tables for me. And then I can actually cite all the sources and make sure that it's actual information that's credible. So those are the three that I use the most often. Now, I talk to AI like it's a person, and I manage it like an intern. So AI is not a high-level employee. It's not. It tackles tasks for you, okay? It's more like an intern. You have to plan it out and give it access to all the resources that it needs. It doesn't have all the backstory for you. It's coming in to do a specific job. Now, like interns, I find that AI has great input. It has a fresh outlook on what you're doing. And so I do really like to have a conversation and be curious and get its opinion on stuff. But ultimately, I need to make the final decision because my intern is new around here, right? I actually have assigned genders to my AI programs. ChatGPT and Claude are both males, while somehow Perplexity remains gender neutral for reasons I really can't explain. So Perplexity is just Perplexity to me. I don't know. So you may hear me refer to ChatGPT or Claude as him because they're my boys, all right? Now, as I said, like an intern, your first task when you're interacting with AI is to figure out what you want and give them specific instructions, and don't be vague about it. That's why we're talking about this right now, so that you can get great content out for your website. Once you get your instructions settled in, then you can let AI do its thing until you get to the editing part, and then you're back to discerning. You have to think along with AI so that way you can make the right decisions about your text. I also like to give AI constraints. I like to say, hold this information for future requests, or don't make stuff up, only use what I gave you. And you have to be specific because Claude especially, God bless him, will just take off on a task like my puppy after a deer. And then I just have to sit and wait for him to complete the task before telling him to delete what he just did. One of my friends who has pro ChatGPT, like I don't have the paid version of ChatGPT, but she does. And she says that she thinks that ChatGPT makes things up just to please her. And I can see that because I think Claude is guilty of doing the same thing. And what's funny, though, is when I point it out, Claude will admit that he's jumped the gun and he apologizes. So they really are like, just talk to them like they're human. You don't have to Google speak to them. Just talk to them like a person, right? And be curious. They have a perspective to offer, and it's going to be honest advice. You may not always want to hear it, but make sure that you're asking lots of questions as you're interacting with AI. So questions that I regularly ask while I'm writing content is, do you really think that this appeals to my audience? Because sometimes it's falling flat, right? Or is this information in the right order? Especially if I'm getting lost in the middle of it, I ask that question. Or did you just make that up? Because I didn't tell you that. Because they'll make it up. Or did we miss anything? Do you think we covered it all? Is there anything else you think we should include that our audience might need to make a buying decision? So I am always asking questions so that AI can help me in this path. The other thing that I do when working with AI, which is the same thing with working with any employee, is you have to organize your information systematically, right? AI can't always remember across chats. It doesn't have the historic knowledge of your company. You have to provide that to it, right? So if you have access to a knowledge base like Claude offers and projects, use them because it makes things come out so much more consistently. But I also always have a document for each project I'm working on with notes and resources that I need on repeat throughout the process. So as I'm speaking back and forth with my AI program, I find a prompt that really works with all the words that are going to make it come out right, I copy that. So that way I don't have to rewrite it or remember it. I can just copy and paste it. Any paragraphs that come out really good, I keep those as examples for tone. I include tone suggestions for easy access, things like verbs and adjectives that I want to have included in the content. And then I also link to other documents that I'm going to use often, like the template documents or buyer personas if you have them. So just to recap what I just said, one AI tool is probably not going to do everything for you, and that's okay. You just use them for their strengths. You don't necessarily have to have paid tools. The free ones work really good. I do have a paid version of Claude that I use. Talk to them like a person, manage it like an intern, and then organize your information so that way you have what you need to have a really intelligent conversation with AI to get what you want out. Okay, so as I said, AI doesn't just know everything about you. You have to give it information about you. I mean, you can just go in and be like, hey, write content for a plumbing website, and it would spit out content for a plumbing website, but it doesn't sound like you. It sounds like ChatGPT, right? So to write effective website copy for your business, I asked ChatGPT, what do you need? And he said, he needs both strategic and practical information to create engaging, goal-driven content. So ultimately, he says that we need to tell him who you are as a company, who you're trying to connect with, like your target audience, and then like what you want to put on your website, the number of pages and the types of content that you want. And fun fact, you can use AI to document all these things. And we're going to talk about how to do that in this episode. But before I jump down that bunny trail, I want to explain the very best way that I've found to collect all this information. And I'm starting right here because sitting down and writing down everything that you need to feed AI to write purposeful website content is not for everyone. And you know who you are, because you hate writing. And even as I'm talking about giving this information to ChatGPT, you are rolling your eyes. You're considering telling me to go jump in a lake. And you're like, I don't even really care if I have crappy AI robot text. I'll take it as long as I don't have to write. And you know that's not what you want, okay? So my advice to you is don't start the process by writing. Start the process by talking. Yes, talking is actually my go-to method for saving time and maintaining authenticity in your text. You don't have to feed AI complete sentences or complete thoughts. The information you give it doesn't need to be organized from the start. It can just be a stream of consciousness. I often start projects by just talking my way through them until I get everything out. And then I take the transcript and I put it into AI and I tell it to organize it. And it does. And it makes an outline for me. Okay. So with each one of these steps that I'm going to talk through today, you can use AI to do all the prep work for you. And then you can say, hey, can you create interview questions based on what you need from me? And then it will. And then you can just record yourself answering those questions naturally. I use tools like Otter. It's an app that you can install on your phone, and it will transcribe the conversation as you're having it. Or if you have Zoom, you can record the conversation in Zoom, and Zoom will transcribe it for you while you answer the questions. And I encourage you to just pretend like you're geeking out with a colleague who really loves to talk about your business. It's okay to ramble, to tell stories, to go on into like intricate details. Like, do not censor yourself as you're going through the process. And then you just upload that transcription to AI and you use it to create your content. And then you can give AI specific instructions on what you want it to do with your transcript. And I'll talk about those in a moment. But what's so incredible about this is it produces really authentic content because you're at the center of it. So whether you're providing information by just typing a stream of consciousness or you're recording yourself talking and then uploading a transcript, you're using your words and your thoughts and your vocabulary. So your content ends up sounding like you. a human, which is really exciting because that's exactly what you want, right? And people like you. That's why they do business with you. And we want them to feel like they're meeting you when they read your website. So starting with your words is the easiest way to make that happen. So don't type it all out. Don't overthink it. That's not what that's not why we're doing this, right? We're going to let AI do the heavy lifting and the typing. We just need to give it what it needs so it can do that. And the great way to do that is by giving it your actual words and voice to work with. Okay, so now that you know my number one tip, like if you take nothing else away from this, please do that. It really does work. What are you going to talk about, right? Well, that's actually not super hard. And I have an outline for you that is in the blog post. I asked ChatGPT, what do you need to know? And he told me that he wants to know about your business. He wants a business overview, your target audience, what you do, what your offerings are, your value proposition, so why you're awesome. He wants to know about your tone and voice, your goals for your website. He would like to see your existing marketing or branding materials. He wants to understand your competitors, what pages you need content for, and then like practical information like social media links and, things he shouldn't be making up like phone, email, location, hours. They will make it up. Okay. So you can use that list and you can just talk through it. Stream of consciousness, right? And upload that transcript into ChatGPT. Now, you can also go out and tell ChatGPT to go to your website. Say, please go to makecreate.com, learn about what we do, who we serve, how we talk about ourselves, make note of existing services, tone, audience, and any unique value points. And it will spit out what it sees. And this is great. This is honest feedback, right? It is telling you what it's interpreting from your website, which is important because you need to know where you're at so you can know how far you need to change. So while you're reading through that content that ChatGPT gives you, document what you like so you can give AI instructions to emulate those things, but then also what you want to change so you can tell AI not to do it. So for example, if it says the tone of your current text is formal, technical, authoritative, but you want it to be warm, casual, and caring, then you need to make a note of that, because you're going to want to tell AI to change it, right? Also pay attention to verbs and adjectives used in the content that you like. So you can upload text from your website or from other websites, and you can ask AI to make a list of adjectives and verbs that are used that you want it to use again. So that way you can get that same feel easily out of your website text. And then once again, you keep all these notes in a document so that way you can easily reference or upload them. So that way you don't have to remember it all because you're going to do a lot of copy and pasting. So one of the things that ChatGPT wanted was your target audience. And that's something that sometimes we can talk about off the top of our head, but I find it's easier if I use AI to create buyer personas. And this is so much faster with AI. And I do it for almost every client. Like if they don't already have them, I do it for every client because I refer back to them as I'm editing and as I'm creating the content to make sure that we're on point. And really, I have AI refer back to them, but I also need to know who these people are. So that way, when I edit the content, I know that we're going to reach them, right? Because I'm really putting myself into their shoes and thinking, man, how do I connect with a teacher, right? What do they need to hear? Who are they? And this is I think an essential step. A lot of people skip it, but I really feel like it's really important. So what I do is I start by telling AI specifics about what my client sells, what makes them different from everyone else out there. I break down any demographics and psychographics that I know about their customers. I explain what types of businesses and customers they serve well or that they want to work with more often, and any pain points I can think of, buying objections I think they might have. And I get as specific as I can, and it's just a huge brain dump. Now, remember at the beginning, I said that AI has a great perspective and it can help you understand and kind of dig into a situation if you're curious. So I encourage you, if you have time, to be curious right now in this buyer persona stage. You can ask AI things like, why would people seek out a company like mine? What are their buying considerations and what's most important to them? What types of information do you think that they need to make a buying decision? What might hold them back? Do you think that I missed anything on my website? And can you point out some gaps that I might not have thought about? Or what tone of text do you think I should use to connect with my audience? I I have even said, hey, I did this with my own website the other day. I said, here's who I'm trying to connect with. Am I actually connecting with this audience through my content? And I was like, yeah, but here's some gaps that I see. So give yourself the opportunity to be curious and gather information about the people that you want to work with. I have a buyer persona outline that is linked in the blog post that you can use to ask questions and research and try to make sure you have a really clear picture. Once I have all the information all gathered up, then I usually take it to Claude and ask him to format it into a buyer persona. And then I save it all in a Google Doc and I create a project for the client in Claude and I link it in the knowledge base. So that way I can refer to it later when I use it when writing the pages. And you could save it all and paste it into ChatGPT too. So in the end, after I have done all my research, I would give a prompt coupled with the buyer persona outline if I wanted it that specific, right? Because once again, I have to tell it specifically what I want it to do. I would say using the information I provided earlier about my target audience and the discussion we've been having in this chat, use this outline to create a buyer persona for me and give it an appropriate name, fill in any knowledge gaps in the profile I didn't give you. And bloop, there you go. You'll have them. And then your job is just to read through it and make sure that it resonates. And if it doesn't seem right to you, then it's probably not right. And you can then again, once again, be curious and be like, why'd you say this? And they'll say, oh, you know what? Actually, that doesn't make sense. I shouldn't have said that. And they will admit when they think that they're wrong too. So always be curious, always questioning. Once again, documenting your target audience. I know a lot of people skip this, but it really will give you the decision-making criteria that you need to put yourself in the shoes of your readers to make sure that you're connecting with them. And it will give all that information over to your AI program to make them make decisions also about what it should be saying to make sure that it's connecting with your readers. Okay, so then what are you going to put on the site, right? So content strategy and structure, because you're going to need to tell AI that as well. And once again, you can use AI to do this stuff as well. So when it comes to deciding what goes on your pages, it really helps to start the step by reviewing your competition because patterns are really powerful. You want to emulate the patterns that you see on your competitors' sites if they make sense. So that way your website is easier to use. And you'll also want to share similar types of information on your site as your competitors. So that way your buyers can compare apples to apples. And you might also find gaps in competing websites so that you can use that to your advantage by providing that information to people. Now, an easy to understand business can actually go use Perplexity to do an analysis of competitor websites. It's really cool. So let's say, once again, that you're a plumber. Love the plumber example. Then you can go out to Perplexity and analyze the websites of your competitors and look for patterns. So for example, I just gave Perplexity the following prompt. Analyze local plumber website content in the Lake Ozark area and tell me similarities you see between content structure of the overall site, common calls to action, trends in service pages, and also if they share pricing. All right, and it gave me a detailed answer for each of the items I asked for with a comparison table and overview. What? Okay, so that would have taken me a really long time to do, and here Perplexity can just do it in a matter of seconds. It's incredible. I actually have a link to the output that you can look at. It's awesome, and I don't have a paid version of Perplexity. It is amazing. Go try it. Please go try it. It's incredible. But I understand that not all types of organizations are as easy to identify. And so if your type of business or your organization is less able to identify competitor sites, you'll have to do a more manual review. I do have a checklist for you in the blog post, though, so you can use that to go with. And to speed up this process, if I have to do manual reviews, I use Loom. So Loom is an app that you can install in your browser in Chrome, and it will record your screen as you're going through it and record your voice while you're going through it as well. And so while I'm recording my screen and reviewing the sites, I say everything out loud that I want to remember. And then Loom transcribes everything automatically. And then I paste the transcript into Claude to analyze it and pull out patterns between the competitors' sites. Yeah. And then I document it in a Google Doc or a similar type program. So that way I can upload it and copy and paste it for AI to use as a reference later. And then also remember, we talked about how you can upload things that you like into AI and ask it like, hey, what tone is this in? What tone would you say is this written in? Or can you give me a list of verbs and adjectives that I might use to accomplish a similar tone in my website? You're not asking it to copy the content. You're asking it to pull inspiration from that content. So the other day I was writing content for a water softener installation company, and I had some competing sites, and I was like, hey, we need to have content like this on our pages. Can you go through it and make an outline of what you see here? And it was like, sure, blop, there's my outline. Okay, great. So that gives you a great place to start. You don't have to start from scratch. AI is going to help you outline everything. Which, hey, wait, that leads me to my next point. You want to make outlines first. Don't just let AI jump straight into writing. You want an outline so that you can better control what's going on, and then you have a checklist to gauge against. So I write each page by starting a new chat and discussing the page with AI. So I determine a goal for the page so that way I can share it with AI. And then AI will keep it in mind as it's suggesting and outlining and writing the content for the page. So your page goal might be to overcome buying objections and give buyers what they need to know to make a buying decision, or establish our company as a trusted advisor, or motivate customers to contact us, or optimize well in search engines, right? So you would determine the goal and then have the conversation with AI about what should go on the page, because you get to decide what goes on the page. AI is not deciding that. You are. You're the smart person, right? So use your real intelligence to manage your AI program. So a ChatGPT prompt that I would use for this is based on the attached information about my competitors' sites and target audience and what you know about my business and industry. Create a content outline for X page and make sure it reaches X goal. Okay. And then along with that prompt, I would be uploading the buyer persona information into the chat. I would upload the target audience document. I might paste the information about the competitor sites also into the chat, so that way it has everything that it needs to make this suggestion to me. And then you're going to look at what it spits out and ask yourself, does it make sense? Right? And yeah. Okay. So for Claude, it's pretty cool because, like I said, Claude has a knowledge base. And so I just need to refer back to the documents that I've uploaded into the knowledge base by name. So that way he can find what he needs to do the task. So I would tell Claude, based on the information in the competitor site research and target audience documents located in your knowledge base, and what you know about my business and industry, create a content outline for X page. Make sure it reaches X goal. And as always, be curious. If anything feels out of place, make sure to ask AI, explain your reasonings. Why did you do this? So then once you have an outline for each of your pages, then you need to gather the information to allow AI to flesh them out. So some of it AI can write for you, right? But remember, we don't want to give it the rein completely. It needs to write with your tonality. And so the more that you can give it about your business, the more it's going to emulate your business. So start by gathering the assets that you already have that you want it to pull information from. Brochures, proposals, existing website text, annual reports, employee training materials often have a lot of really good information in them. Like anything goes, okay? We just need to make sure that it is giving accurate information. And then if you're missing information and you want to supplement, to fill in those gaps, then you can create interview questions from the outline that you just created. You say, hey, based on this outline, what interview questions would I need to ask to be able to get this content from somebody? And they will give you, like AI will give you the questions, and then you just need to talk through them once again and record yourself and then upload that transcript so that way AI has what it needs to write your content for you. Okay, so you've got all your information. Now what? Now I would suggest creating page templates. Okay, so once again, we're managing this process, right? And we want it to be consistent. Now, if you just got 4 pages on your website, you might be able to just move right into writing it right now because you're fine, right? But if you're like me and you're writing 85 pages for a website, you need some serious instructions and parameters to make sure that stuff is coming out consistently. Because the last thing you want is 70 pages in to realize that none of the titles are formatted correctly. And you're going to have to adjust every single letter to be capitalized. Yeah, that's going to take forever. It's really going to suck. So you don't want to do that, okay? And I really feel like templates can help any website, because I'm sure that you've noticed how the pages in a good website, they have a rhythm, right? They have a similar amount of content in similar parts of the site. You just kind of start knowing where things are going to be and where to find stuff. And this is partially due to great navigation, but also it's because they've created a consistent format for all of their pages. And this document is going to help you make that happen, right? If you just give AI the reins, it's just going to say whatever it wants to say, as much as it wants to say it, however it wants to say it. Yeah. And that's not what we want to have, right? You can eliminate that problem by giving it very specific instructions, okay? There are two types of page templates that I like to create for AI to keep it consistent. One is an overview of instructions, and the other is a similar structure page template. So the overview of instructions applies to everything on the website, and then the similar structured page template would be for, let's say you have a bunch of projects, posts, staff bios, maybe services pages, products. Those all have a very, very consistent structure to them. And so I get into the nitty gritty and really give specific instructions to make sure that they come out the exact same every single time. Now, your big picture overview page template is where you're going to explain the rules that apply to every single page. So determine what perspective you want it to be written from. Do you want it to be first person or third person? A combination of both? Do you want it to speak directly to the viewer using the word you, speaking to them and with them, not at them? Include those instructions here. Explain how you want your company name to be used. You always want the full company name and then followed by the acronym on every single page? Or do you even care if it uses your company name to start off with? Because a lot of people will use their company name followed by the acronym, and then they will occasionally refer to themselves by the acronym as the page goes down. But most of the time they just use we, right? And those are things you get to decide, and you want to decide ahead of time so that way it comes out consistently. So you'll want to establish those consistent brand voice guidelines, that tonality that we talked about earlier, any verbs, adjectives that you really like that you've used AI to generate for you. And then specific formatting instructions using examples for AI. So that could be things like how to format your titles. Are they going to be all caps or sentence case? You can tell it when to use punctuation. You can tell it how long you want them to be, when to use bulleted lists. I mean, you can get real specific. If you always want to make sure that you have an SEO page title, make sure that you tell it to do that and tell it how you want it. The same with meta descriptions. Make sure you tell it how you want it. I also explain how long I want key content to be that's located on every single page, but not identical on each page. For example, if you're going to have a consistent call to action in the footer of every page, you can include instructions explaining exactly what you want. Maybe you want to have a title with one sentence underneath it and a button. And you can give examples of what you like, how long you want them to be, how you want them to be formatted. You can even tell them what heading tag you want to apply to it. Two other things that I always put in this document are how long I want the pages to be, because I have a specific length that I'm trying to hit most of the time for search engine optimization purposes. And then I also tell it where to find the documents outlining the brand tone, target audience, and any other supplemental information. So that way it has everything that it needs. And then I can just copy it and paste it and use it over and over again. This thing's your friend. And as you go through and create your pages, if you find it's not doing something right, that's okay. You just go back and you adjust the instructions on the page template and you try it again and see if it works. And most of the time, just a little bit of tweaking will get you something that's like really consistent over and over again. And so you can do the same thing with those similar page structure templates. I get even more specific with these because you'll have the whole outline for the page in it. And you can tell it how long you want information to be inside of the content that it's writing. You can tell it how you want your headings formatted. You can ask it to suggest text for buttons, all kinds of things, all within this same document. Now, if I have to have customer testimonials and also featured projects on a page for a services page, and I have maybe a spreadsheet that has them all in there, then I use this page template and I give instructions to AI to go out to the other document and comb through it and look for related testimonials or look for related projects that it thinks it would be good and would help sell this service and suggest them in a certain spot on the page. And it is darn incredible. I'm getting into the weeds a teensy bit here, but ultimately what you have to have in a spreadsheet, if you're going to reference it using AI, is you have to have something that's identifiable with what you're doing. So let's say you're writing a services page and the service name is X. Well, there has to be some place in a row or a column X listed. So that way you can tell AI, hey, go into column labeled with X and sort through this information and pull it out and use it in relativity to this service, right? And I'm telling you, it really can do it. It's incredible. I'm always surprised because I'm fact checking everything, right? Because somebody's paying me to do this and I don't want to give it back to them wrong. And I go out there and it actually did pull an adequate testimonial or the correct information out of a spreadsheet. And I didn't even have to look it up. It's awesome. So, especially if you're writing lots and lots of pages, create these page templates, make these decisions, then you're giving it over to AI and you can make magic happen. It will create content like you want it almost on the very first go. Okay, so now you're ready. You have all your templates, you have all your information gathered, you have all the back information the AI needs to make great decisions, and you can feed all this information into the system and you can let it write the content for your pages. So you tell it to write the content. And I write almost all my website content in Claude. So my prompt would be really similar to using the instructions on the overview page template Google Doc linked in the project knowledge. Write text for the page name, using the following outline and the attached brochure. Remember the page goal is goal. And then I paste in the outline and boom, it makes website text for me. It's magical. And then I just have to read it. And since I did all the prep work, usually I'm sitting there nodding my head like, yeah, this is pretty on point. And then other times it might not feel like you're on the right track, and that's okay. If it feels off, I just ask it to explain its reasoning, or I point out what I don't like about it. Like I'll be like, wow, this doesn't feel friendly, Claude. I thought we were writing friendly text today. And he's like, oh, you're right. You know what? It doesn't feel friendly. That was way too authoritative. And then he goes in and he revises it all for me. And the great thing about using AI to write is that you can be like, that feels flat, or ugh, that's too stuffy. Just use normal words like you would normally talk to somebody and then allow it to revise it until you find what you want. You can really be you'll know it when you see it person with AI because the iterations take minutes, seconds to produce for you once you've done all this back work. And then once you are like, yes, you nailed it on this paragraph. That's awesome. Copy that sucker and ask him questions about it. Be like, what would you say the tone is on this paragraph? And Claude will outline what it thinks the tone is and why it thinks that's the tone. And then you're going to use those exact words as part of your prompt inside of your template documents. So that way you can get the exact same stuff out over and over and over again. So you're interacting with AI, once again, like it's a team member, just like any other team member, right? Because it's not a magical black box. You can question it, you can manage it, you can provide feedback just like you would with anything else. So don't just say make it better. You can say this feels too long, or this feels wordy, or I'm getting lost in the middle of this sentence. I think it's because there's like a really long sentence in the middle here. You can ask it to explain its choices. You can ask it, once again, do you really think this would appeal to my target audience? Or did you just make that up? So ask it these questions. Common AI writing problems, things that I find all the time. Wordiness and fluff. Okay, so ChatGPT and Claude love to talk. They like to talk as much as I like to talk. And they like to get markety and like use some flowery language. They pile on the fluff. And sometimes for clients, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I love this. But, and because it can feel really good to see your company represented with such lovely words. But it can also be like 1 nanosecond away from feeling detached and unbelievable. Okay, so be aware that they're going to do this. You don't want your content to feel too good to be true. You want it to feel like you. So when you read it, you should be like, if you have a sense of humor and you're kind of punchy and weird like me, when I read what Claude writes and he's on point, I'm laughing at what he wrote. I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds so much like me. Like, wow. And that's really fun to read, right? But sometimes he comes back and he's not using the funny examples that I gave. He's not really talking like me. He's writing like AI. And I'll be like, hey, can you go back into the transcript and pull out examples that I gave? So that way, this doesn't just sound like AI wrote this blog post and it actually shows that I'm an expert. And he'll be like, yeah. And he goes out and he pulls them out. So you can absolutely do that. But just be aware. Wordiness and fluff, it's a thing. Also, I find poor readability to be an issue. So as I'm reading the content, as you're reading the content, ask yourself, is this hard to read? Because if it's hard for you to read, it's hard for me to read, I'm getting paid to read it, right? Then no one else is wanting to read it either. And because they love lots of words, it can have a tendency to produce walls of text unless they're directed to do otherwise. So if you find an area that's just like 4 paragraphs of text and you're like, who's ever going to read this? Just copy it and paste it back in and be like, I feel like this is getting too long. Can we shorten it? Can we add subtitles? Is there any place that we can add a bulleted list? Could you bold some keywords to make it interesting? And AI's like, yeah, sure, boom. And then it does it and you can look at it and see how it feels to you. The other thing I find, well, one of the other things I find is that it will use generic language. So sometimes AI is just going to take the easiest path. Copywriters do the same thing. It happens, right? So it'll start every page with at company name. Like, oh my gosh, no, that just sounds like every other website. And so I tell Claude that. I'm like, this statement feels like every other website. I need you to rewrite it. It needs to feel more like the brand tone. Remember, we want to be friendly. We want to be engaging. This just feels like every other construction site. Go back to the transcript and pull out an example to start this page with, right? And he will do it. And like I said, once you find a page that's really sounding like you, then ask AI what that tone is, and then write the tone in the instructions that you give to AI so that way it emulates it. Put it in that document. Okay, so flow. When you're writing from an outline, AI is not just automatically going to reorganize content for you. And sometimes your outline, once you get all the information into it, like once the page is written, the flow, it isn't organized from most important to least important anymore. It's just organized how it's organized, right? So oftentimes, especially if my pages are getting long, I ask AI if the content is in order from the most important information to the least important information on the page. And then it gives me its opinion. And if the answer is no, then it will suggest a new order for the content. Then you can ask AI to reorder it for you, which is really cool. And when it reorders the content for you, you need to reread the content because all those transitions that were in the content moving you from bit to bit seamlessly, they're not going to be quite right anymore. And so when you see that, you can just highlight the sentence that doesn't quite feel right or doesn't actually lead into the next piece of information and ask it to rewrite it. So that way the transitions are there correctly. Or you can just be like, hey, it seems like the transitions are now off, that we reorganized everything. Can you rewrite them? Because once again, it needs instructions, right? It doesn't just know that we reorganized stuff and now all the transitions need to be rewritten unless you tell it. And now you know that you need to tell it. So how great is that? Accuracy, I know I've talked about this like so many times, but sometimes AI forgets whole sections. Sometimes it makes stuff up. Sometimes it thinks content's in there, but it's actually not in there at all. And in those instances, I just ask, where is this? I wanted to have it included. And I mean, sometimes Claude will think it's included, and then I'll have to ask it to give me the paragraph in the chat so I can see it, because I can't see it in the artifact that is created. It will write in a document. It calls it an artifact. There you go. New vocabulary for everyone. But yes, it will also make things up. So if it feels like it's made up, then it probably is. Okay, and then last but not least, Look out for redundancies because both Claude and ChatGPT love to repeat themselves. And sometimes it's just two sentences right on top of one another. Other times it's whole paragraphs. And there can be positive things about redundancies, right? So if the first statement didn't connect with someone, maybe it'll connect the second time. But if it starts to feel repetitive and the page is feeling long, sometimes it just makes it not easy to read. Then just remove them altogether. Oftentimes, I find that it will create the redundancies in your text because it's trying to reach a length goal for the content. So it feels like a thesis paper written by a high school student that's trying to get to a certain word count, right? They're just saying stuff over and over again, and they'll do that too. So be on the lookout for it. And just feel free to delete it. Or actually, I spend a lot of time being like, Claude, I think this is redundant. What do you think? And he'll be like, yeah, it is redundant. We should probably remove it the second time. Or he'll rewrite it and combine the two. I'll tell him what I like about one and what I like about another, and then he'll rewrite the two together. So that's pretty cool. Remember, you are the manager and AI is the tool. It does not think for you. You have to think. So if Claude jumps the gun and starts writing before you've given him all the information, tell him to stop. If ChatGPT rewrites your entire page when you only wanted one sentence changed, call it out, because these programs are going to work better when you give them clear boundaries and expectations, just like any other team member, right? We're just treating it like a person. Now, I realize I just gave you a lot of information. And if you're used to writing and you're now adopting AI into your process, you're probably like, yeah, I got this. This is going to be awesome. But if you've never written before, this might feel like a lot. And just remember that we do have the blog post and all the resources over there for you so that you can use them and work to get AI working for you. All that planning and organization that I start with, the knowing your audience, outlining the content, gathering the materials, this is actually really, really important. It's more important than any AI tool that you're using because it gives you the reasoning that you need to make decisions about your text, and it gives AI what it needs to write it. Because the more intentional that you are about what you're asking AI to do, the better your results and the more consistent that your results are going to be. So instead of just throwing those prompts at it and hoping for magic, success comes from treating AI as a collaborative partner that can help you work faster and more efficiently, but it's not a replacement for your strategic thinking and your opinion of your authentic voice. It's just like an intern, my friends. It's so much, they're so similar, okay? So at the end of the day, your website visitors want to connect with a real human, and that human is you. And AI can help you get your thoughts organized and your content written, but the strategy, the personality, the real intelligence behind it all, that's got to come from you. And when you combine your brain with AI's capabilities, that's when you create content that really converts those precious, dwindling website visitors into real customers. So we have been talking about some real techie topics over the past couple months, from battling bots and keeping your website secure to breaking down ADA Title II web rules and exceptions. Now we just talked about using AI to assist with writing your website text. There is more content like this planned in the future, but next month we're going to celebrate Make Create's birthday, and we're going to talk about our 20 lessons learned from the Make Create team, because Make Create turns 20 this year. 20 years of building awesome websites for awesome people and finding joy in it. That's pretty incredible, right? So stay tuned, subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes, including but not limited to our super fun team birthday episode. Now, usually to close out these podcasts, I tell you about some resource that I have for you to go download from the website, but I'm not going to do that because what you just listened to, this is a workshop. This is a resource in and of itself. There are AI prompts out on the blog post. There are outlines that you can use. It's all written out. My free gift to you in this episode is the show notes and the blog post and the prompts from this episode. So go on over to makecreate.com and check them out. It's in the blog section waiting for you. So thank you so much for hanging out with me while I geeked out about this. And until next time, go forth and market with purpose.